This particular show was a big thing when I was growing up. You know what it's like. Think about the sort of, it's hard to imagine, in fact, now just how popular this particular show was. But picture yourself over here in the autumn and winter in the United Kingdom, and suddenly we're all dressing like this. Yeah, that's right. Like we're in Miami Vice. Yes, 40 years since Miami Vice hit the screens. Now, I've been lucky enough to meet the stars like Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas, who were, I thought, great in that particular show. And as I say, I don't know if it was like this in your part of the world, but it was a phenomenon because I think, for all of us that are still young enough to remember, it had that MTV thing about it, didn't it? Glitzy, glamorous, glossy, plus all the great stars in there with their music videos and music undertracks. And everybody was dressing like George Michael in that particular era. Big blonde hair, jacket sleeves rolled up, trousers rolled up, no socks for the guys. You know, it looked like there was a sock shortage over here in Britain at that point. And then going out freezing to nightclubs and standing outside bars pretending that you're in the glitzy, glamorous surroundings of Miami Vice. Now, one star that made an appearance in that show that I was lucky enough to meet and call a good friend is none other than the Scottish singing superstar that is Sheena Easton. Now, Sheena, as you know, has done many things in her career. And, you know, she came to my attention, again, when I was at school. She'll kill me for that. But when I was at school, because she was in a TV show called The Big Time. And it was sort of a preemptive of the reality shows where they took an unknown girl and then gave her a shot at the big time. And this resulted in the start of a career and a colossal amount of hit records. And let's not forget, a Bond theme also for Your Eyes Only, making Sheena also the very first person to appear on screen, yes, illuminated, sort of like naked, yeah. And apparently, according to Sheena and the team, even though the particular premiere was going to have the late and beautiful Princess Diana attending, they worried about that particular scene at the beginning. Imagine how tame that would seem today. You know what I'm saying? Now, Sheena told me, of course, that she was lucky enough to be a guest star in the brilliant Miami Vice not too long after it started. And she played it a fading singer that was being protected by, of course, Crockett, etc. And what was interesting about this, she said she had no idea at the point because obviously, although she'd been very successful in America, this show had taken off to such a rocket that she just didn't realize just how popular it would become. Now, as I say, what was fascinating about this particular show was when they started it out, it wasn't necessarily meant to be this very big hit. And the reason why was simply this. See, Crockett and Tubbs were originally going to be played by Nick Nolte and Jeff Bridges, who were considered for the roles. But it was not really very lucrative for film stars to venture into television at that particular period. Today, with all the streaming stuff, it would be totally different. Then they decided to look elsewhere, and one of the other people was this man. Remember Larry Wilcox of Chips fame? Well, he was also a candidate for the role of Crockett. But the producers felt going from one police sort of role to another would not be a good fit. And after dozens of candidates and a twice delayed pilot, shooting, Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas became the hit duo. Sheena told me that she had such a fun time on the show. She said she couldn't quite believe it, you know, because obviously as she was making it, she realised what a phenomenon it was, and they were very excited to have her. This was around the period, let's not forget, where Sheena had become very successful by teaming up with another pop megastar that was Prince, he of Purple Rain fame. And it's interesting to note, isn't it, that as the show now hits 40 years, oh yes, chums, 40, I know, it's frightening, isn't it? 40 years, well, I was merely a child, of course, at that point, but 40 years before, of course, 40 years on from the show, should I say, where has that gone? But even today, the reruns do incredibly well. And I wanted to know, as ever, were you a fan? Did you watch the show? I watched it for the fashions. I like the music, I like the scenery, I like the idea of living in Miami, even though there was all that crime with Crockett and Tubbs. But, you know, I thought the two guys, Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas, did an incredible job in creating a TV show that even after all of these years, 40, is still well loved today. And of course, you know, there's always these talks about bringing these shows back, but you can never recreate that magic, can you? It's as I've said many times before, time sadly moves on, And obviously, it doesn't matter what you do, that moment was rather special. And it was rather special for Miami Vice. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.